So have you ever wondered how rich you need to be to join Australia's wealthiest 10%, 5%, or even the top 1%? In this video, I'll reveal the exact net worth cutoffs that separate everyday Aussies from the ultra wealthy, based on the latest research from the GRATTAN Institute. We'll look at the breakdown by income, superannuation, property, and total net worth so you can get a holistic picture. Most people totally underestimate just how wide the wealth gap in Australia really is, and what you'll find out might surprise you. So firstly, let's talk about income, and we'll look at income from three perspectives: individual income, household income, and based on the tax brackets we have in Australia. Income is probably one of the most commonly used measures for financial success, but it often only gives a limited view into someone's actual financial situation. Because even if you make $200,000 a year, if you also spend $200,000 a year, you're in the same boat as someone earning $50,000 a year and living paycheck to paycheck. So based on GRATTAN's research, the average full-time working Australian makes $104,756, whilst the median full-time worker makes $90,416. Cross-referencing this with the data that was published by the Australian Bureau of Statistics validates these figures. In its report on weekly earnings, it revealed that full-time adult workers earned on average $1,923.40 per week, which just equates to over $100,000 per year before tax. But keep in mind that averages can be skewed by those earning massive salaries. Think of CEOs and executives earning millions of dollars. That's why sometimes averages aren't the best measure. Instead, median income is probably a better representation of the typical worker. GRATTAN's research actually found that more than 75% of Australian workers earn less than the average full-time wage of $104,765. Now, from an income perspective, if you want to be in the top 10%, then you'll need to be earning $169,151. To be in the top 5%, you need to be earning $189,178, and to be in the top 1%, you need to be earning a cool $375,000. If we look at the distribution of income across Australia from an income tax bracket perspective, the overwhelming majority of Australia sits within the 30% tax bracket at 47%, whilst only around 6% of Australians fall into the 37% marginal tax bracket, and only 4% had reportable incomes of over $190,000. Now, taxable income is probably only a good comparison if you're a PAYG employee who also earns a full-time salary, because it excludes people who don't file tax returns and misrepresents business owners and wealthy households who have more flexibility as to how they receive and distribute their income. Now, an individual's income can be a poor measure of their actual financial circumstances. Many households will have one person who might be working part-time, caring for the kids, whilst their spouse works a full-time and is on a higher income. That's why looking at household income levels might be a better comparison point. The median household brings in roughly $92,856 annually in gross income, whilst the average household brings in $120,660. To be among the top 10% of households, you need to be earning $235,425, and to be in the top 5% of households, you need to be taking home $305,938, and the top 1%, well, they're earning a cool $531,652 in the household per year. Now, whilst it is important to look at how much income people and households bring in, an even more important factor is what they actually own from a wealth perspective. So firstly, let's look at people's superannuation balances, which in my opinion is one of the most tax efficient wealth building vehicles that we have available to us in Australia, but unfortunately is often overlooked by a lot of people. For individuals between the ages of 25 to 40, the median balance is $25,000, whilst the average person has around $46,000. To be in the top 5% at this age range, you'd be looking at $158,000, and the top 1% have over $293,000. For Australians between the age of 41 to 64, Super balances jump significantly. The median balance at this age is $90,000, whilst the average is $176,000. To be in the top 5% at this age, you need a whopping $626,000, and to be considered in the top 1%, you're looking at $1.398 million or more. Now, I will admit that these age ranges are definitely quite broad, so it can be harder to compare. So if you want a more detailed breakdown of the average and median superannuation balance by age, then check out a video I recently did where I compared ASFA's reporting on this very topic. Now let's zoom out a little bit and also consider household super balances. In younger households between the age of 25 to 40, the median balance is around about $60,000, whilst the average is around $93,000. To be in the top 5% of households, you need a combined super balance of $279,000, and if you're over $473,000, that puts you in the top 1%. For middle-aged households, which is between the ages of 41 to 64, the median super balance is $179,000, whilst the average is $297,000. To reach the top 5%, you'd be looking at $968,000, and the top 1%, well, that benchmark is just over $2 million. Now, considering the fact that the super guarantee was only introduced back in 1992 and started at a mandatory rate of 3% contribution by your employer, it's actually quite impressive that some people have been able to amass over $2 million in that period of time. To become a part of the 1% of households in Australia from a super perspective, I would imagine that a large portion of those households are likely combining their balances together to create a self-managed super fund and most likely investing into property in order to leverage their money. Now, ASFA have actually calculated that you'd need $690,000 as a couple and $595,000 for singles if you're looking for a comfortable retirement, and this is also assuming that you own your own home. So unfortunately, based on GRATTAN's research, the majority of Australians don't have enough for retirement based on ASFA's guidelines. Now, the final measure from GRATTAN before we get into the total net worth is property. Now, property in Australia isn't just a nice place to live, it's often seen as one of the biggest wealth building tools in Australia. Now, among households aged 25 to 40, the median home equity is actually $0. Not many surprises there, given that many are still either renting or looking to purchase their first home. The average is to have around $140,000 in equity, so most likely those who have just purchased their first piece of real estate, whether it's for investment or for your primary place of residence. But if your equity is above $650,000, that puts you in the top 5% of Australia, and if you're over $1.329 million, then you're in the top 1%. Now, it's important to know that according to the ABS, on average, Australians own 1.21 residential properties. So if you're someone who owns your own PPOR and an investment property, you're already doing better than the average. For those in their middling years of 41 to 64, the median home equity sits at $325,000, whilst the average is $458,000. The top 5% of households in this age bracket hold $1.19 million, whilst the top 1% reach $2.768 million. From the figures, you can really see just how powerful property is as a wealth building tool for those who are able to get in before the boom and have really been able to capitalize and accelerate their wealth. Unfortunately, home ownership rates have been on the decline, especially amongst younger Australians. Data shows us that back in 1971, 68% of Australians aged between 30 and 34 owned a home. However, fast forward 40 years, and in 2021, that figure has dropped below 50%. And for those aged between 35 to 39, it tells a very similar story, with home ownership falling from over 70% down to just 59%. And finally, let's look at net worth in totality. This is a complete view of your financial health and includes everything that you own, from your super, property, shares, savings, and even the value of your vehicles and home contents, minus any debts. For younger households aged between 25 to 40, the median net worth is $238,000, whilst the average has around $448,000. To move in the top 5% of households within this age range, you're looking at around $1.558 million, and to be in the top 1%, you need a net worth of $3.091 million. Between the ages of 41 to 64, the median net worth is $809,000, whilst the average is around $1.24 million. And for the top 5% of households, you'd be looking at $3.775 million, whilst the top 1% more than doubles to $7.71 million. Now, I always thought that if you had $1 million and you were a millionaire, then you're pretty rich. But these days, unfortunately, $1 million doesn't take you very far, and you're not actually even within the average amongst Australians. And in order to hit the top 1%, you're going to need many multiples of that million. When we look at the top 5% and 1% of households in terms of their net worth, home equity as a percentage of their household net worth only makes up 38 and 36% respectively, which means that all of their other assets like super and shares still makes up the majority of their net worth, which provides us with one important insight. Growing your wealth outside of property is key to having real financial freedom and flexibility. Now, hopefully this video has given you some insight into what it takes to be a part of the financial elite in Australia. I know I'm nowhere near there, but it's good to have a reference point in mind if that's what you're wanting to achieve. If you found the video insightful, then leave me a comment down below, like the video, share it with a friend, and most importantly, subscribe. And if you're interested in a more detailed breakdown of superannuation by age, then you can check out this video right here. So maybe I'll see you in that video, but if not, hopefully a future one. Thanks for watching again.